Hello, please let's mute. Let's allow our colleagues to come back and join us, and then we can continue with our fantastic discussions, please. Yep. Are we there? Yes. Hello, colleagues.
Hello, Prof.
Good. We are good to go. The rest they'll join us.
Yes.
Okay. Now remember, we were talking of confirmation of previous minutes. And what we said, best practice now requires that even as part of circulating, papers ahead of time, 21 clear days, the previous minutes should have been circulated to members. And I'm saying that where good rapport is concerned as a board secretary, you should have indicated to them to go through the previous minutes and either confirm wholesale or recommend some alterations to be made. Okay? Before the next meeting. And so you just have a simple duty as a secretary to the board as part of the order of the business of the day to tell your board chair when he asks for confirmation that everything is fine. And so on the basis of that, you are able to confirm the previous, but mostly people want to get to the boardroom to be able to confirm the minutes and they have to be read out. No, that amounts to wastage of time. Digitization or digitalization allows you to do this 2 weeks ahead of. That is why in annual general meetings today, we don't require members or shareholders to come to an annual general meeting to now say they reject an audited report or whatever. No, you should have done that long before. So same applies to adoption of what? Previous minutes of the boardroom. Read ahead of time. You said this or your colleague said. Did it actually reflect the true state of affairs? That's important. Then you confirm and that one. The next most important thing is to look at the state of affairs. You are representing a company. You as a board, remember the difference between a board and then the CEO. Governance versus management. The board's role is governance. Translated as constraining executive action and then ensuring ultimate responsibility. Whereas management is about strategic direction and policy. So the CEO is in charge of management day to day. So you as the board may not be in constant touch with the business, even though it is required that you are briefed. So allow the CEO to give you an update of the state of affairs of the business. And the state of affairs should seek to answer 3 fundamental questions. Where have we come from? Where are we now? Where do we intend to go from here? Where have we come from will give you a historical perspective of the business from the previous minutes. Take note of that. Where are we now? You give detailed briefing of the state of affairs. And on the basis of the detailed briefing of the current state of affairs, the board decides where we are going from here. And in deciding from where we are going from here, you are looking at corporate governance term known as the sweet spots. So note it down. What are your sweet spots? And remember, my advice is always in determining even your sweets, even though this is a boardroom discussion, apply it to yourself, colleagues. You should be able to identify your own sweet spots. Identify your sweet spots after this our meeting. And to do so and do it nicely, I always advise, do it at 0 o'clock. 12 a.m., that's 0 o'clock. When the night is full of quietude, when the sound of a pin drop on the ground could be heard and felt, there's a time to wake up in the middle of the comfort of your bedroom or your study, wherever you find yourself at that time, and you begin to look at the sweet spots. So the challenge I'm going to throw to you is not to define the sweet spots, but I know it's something triangular. And it's about intersection of 3 things. One of the 3 things is your purpose of life. You listening to me or be in the discussion, personify it or personalize our discussions for now before you even get to the boardroom. So I'm giving you one of the items, your mission or purpose. There are 2 more, and I'm leaving it to you. It is not only enough to identify these 2, but create that convergence zone among these. That's what I say. It is something triangular. One sits on top, the other at the extreme base, at the extreme base. Bring them together. That's what we call the sweet spots. And that will give you where you intend to move from today's meeting, colleagues. Your sweet spots, personifying or personalizing it, very important for myself and you, because it will tell you the level of progress you have made, the miles that still lay ahead of you, and the key strategies you have to adopt to be able to come to terms with the realization of what you set for yourself. That constitute your sweet spots, colleagues. Very important for myself and you. Very, very personify it, personalize it for now, before you take it to the boardroom, colleagues. That's important. When you get the current state of affairs, and usually, as we have said, the CEO is the Shazais the first. He is in charge of the management day to day. So you would allow the CEO to brief the boards of the state of affairs. And as I'm saying, I can see people, I don't want to mention them. You are well connected because that's what you do. And you begin to cross the T's and dot the I's. And I know when it gets to the section where we will share ideas, you will share with us your vast reach of experience. That's important, colleagues. Now, after you have discussed, just a minute. Sorry, there was a jump. Confirmation will be followed by agenda for discussion. And remember the agenda, you have already mentioned it to them, colleagues. So what you now need to do is to pick the agenda, which is on a paper, and when digitization is concerned, you would have projected it on through a PowerPoint projection in the boardroom. So everybody is watching as they discuss, line by item, by line. So pick one item, one after the other, and discuss them with members. And that is the duty of you as the board chair. Shall we now discuss item 1? Colleagues. So you allow members to make effective contribution to spice up the discussion. That is part of boardroom dynamics. Leads among equals. Unfortunately, as we've seen, is not always ideal like that, because the boardroom, we have said, is full of politics. Why is it political? It's political because of what? Resource allocation. And wherever there's resource allocation, there's bound to be conflicts, because each and everyone want to have the bigger share of the cake. And like national politics, somebody can look you in the face and laugh with you, but as soon as you turn your back, if he has access to gun, he will pop you down. That's the boardroom. A colleague of mine here was saying, look, you are a corporate governance person. You should understand these things. You are even well equipped to equip yourself even before you get there. That is the essence of that. It's gaming first. And remember Mark Otto von Bismarck in the scramble for Africa in Berlin. Remember, when Portugal petitioned Mark Otto von Bismarck to bring sanity to bear on the scramble for Africa, and he extended invitation to all the participants, British, the Portuguese, France, Belgium, name it. The US was called upon only as an observer status country to see the scramble for Africa. The good thing is when we are discussing this, we are now at learning stage. Be Googling it, the scramble for Africa. What did Mark Otto von Bismarck tell? Then we are on the same page, colleagues. It's so interesting. He said something striking, that welcome to the magnificent city. I'm quoting him. This thing is no longer there. Those days I used to quote it. Chris Diaro, remember? And others. Welcome to the magnificent city of Berlin. Make good use of our sausages. And he mentioned all the delicacies. But he says, as you near the D-Day, be prepared. I hope somebody was holding this as we're talking. Be prepared to put on your gaming faces. To discover the dark continent. Because it has more than the eye can see. I'm now paraphrasing. What did he say? Be ready to put on your gaming faces. It's not about the sausages again. So when they are going to the boardroom, it's no longer about the sausages. It's about boardroom tricks and politics. Who is with me? Who is against me? Colleagues, I don't want to cite examples, but I know a lot. Mariam Bano, as against Peter Eliasu, which ended in court. Ibrahim Adam versus Steve Pejo, which ended in court because some people, AGB, some people were actually laid off, and it came from the boardroom because two people will not agree. But most recent, outgone GNPC boards, KK Sapon, and then current, outgone NPP chair, Blake. These are the things we're talking, and I know a lot of them. Not to talk of the international one who used to cite. I know one in the banking sector crisis, colleagues. Who are you to say what he says in the boardroom? You can't say anything against. And it was just about promotion of cronyism. 75% of the total asset of that bank was used to be given as loans and advancement to themselves and then related parties. Who are you in the boardroom to challenge these colleagues? The best you can do is to resign, to keep your peace and your principle. So the boardroom is not for small guys' business. It's meant for the big guys. So we're lucky even as we prepare for meetings. And as I say, it's going to last for 5 weeks, same time. So it is required that you introduce what you call boardroom dynamics by allowing people to contribute effectively to this. But even as I've said, I am not naive, and I don't want you to also be naive to think that the ideal would always work. We have the reality of the dark room of the boardroom. And as you are discussing, please take notes. Draw out resolution items in the course of the discussion. Somebody would ask, what is a resolution item? Resolution item in the boardroom discussion I'm told, can you hear, colleagues?
Yes, Prof.
Hello? Joel, can you hear now?
I can hear you.
Joel, can you hear now? Hello, Joel.
Honorable, I can hear, yeah.
All right, because I have just seen. How about Osman Diaro? Can you hear?
I think it's Osman. Yeah,
Osman,
I think it's Osman who's having the problem.
Osman.
I can hear you clear.
Very well. Okay, sorry, I'm just seeing your this. That's why I'm responding. Great. So somebody would ask, what is a resolution item? Particularly when you are a board secretary, police, put yourself in readiness. 3 people are more important in the boardroom. They bring about harmony or disharmony in the boardroom. The chair is the leader of the boardroom. But for there to be harmony in the boardroom, the chair must work in tandem with the CEO, even in the organization of the meeting. The more powerful person in the boardroom is the board secretary. Take it from me. That is why in the recent Act 992, the role of the board secretary has been redefined. Particular qualification. It's not anybody now who can become a board secretary. Foremost qualification, you must have been a lawyer. Not just only a lawyer, you must be a practicing lawyer. Or by dint of hard work, your academic pursuits. That is why, colleagues, I want to advise wherever we are seated, please, it's not each and every one of us who can become lawyers, but you must read the Company Act and understand the details as it applies to you. More importantly, you must be a professional. Begin to write your chartered, whatever your field is. And there's one of you sincerely, I have worked let me leave it, maybe appropriately I'll say that. He's been so cooperative. And I spoon feed and spoon manage. I belong to somewhere with him, and sooner we'll come back to the platform with our achievements and perhaps for congratulatory messages. Wherever, as long as you believe, either when you are a chartered accountant, automatically you qualify by Act 992 to become a board secretary. So your case is closed. When you are a practicing lawyer, you are qualified to become a board secretary per the provisions of Act 992. So your matter is closed. What is then next is myself and you. I left accountancy after first degree sincerely, but I still hope that as far as life presents these opportunities, I will still write and become a chartered person. But that's not the end. Beyond your academic, your MBA, beyond your doctorate, belong to a professional body which has a chartered status. So very soon, we'll be bringing some chartered corporate governance and secretaries to your doorsteps. But not only that, begin to find yourself affiliated to a chartered body that will qualify you. Otherwise, when it matters most, remember, opportunities favor only the prepared mind. Prepare your mind from this evening. You're not a chartered accountant, a lawyer by profession, not only a lawyer. A solicitor may not be qualified. A barrister should be going to the courts and understand. Why would they want a chartered accountant? Because they are very, the profession requires you to be very meticulous. Because the fate of shareholders lie in your hand. The word that you certify, you pass, is important. So I'm saying that, colleagues, when we have a period like this, you should find significant. I know it's the first day, particularly we have extended it beyond our platform to other members. Spread the words. Knowledge should have no end. Formal education has an end, but knowledge acquisition shall never have an end. Bev till you drop out. Colleagues. And never, let me put it, don't think those who are going for PhD or whatever, colleagues, let me tell you, it's becoming a necessity. Start it as early as possible. It is difficult in this country. If you can find, you can travel also, but of course we have distance now. What is important is identify one that is credible enough and you start something. If you don't start immediately, but start the investment process, as I talk about. Because a lot of opportunities come and they will miss you. They will slip through your fingers. You will cry in loneliness. Resolution items, back to our discussion, are items that you pen down for follow-ups. Take notes. You know, when you are discussing in the boardroom, there are things that, particularly the board secretary, you have to pen or minute down. It means they will require follow-ups. Because in the next board meeting, they will find out from you. And everything, that's also the secretary is the most powerful person now, because the secretary is seen as the repository of corporate governance in the boardroom. So anything, anyone will be forgiven. You, the secretary, nobody will forgive you. You must have access, knowledge to the company's law, which is Act 992 if you are operating in Ghana. If you are a public entity, the Public Interest Authority Act, no, a state's SIGA Act, you have to know the implications. SIGA recommended corporate governance, you have to know this. All of this, colleagues, you must speak and you must understand so that when you are talking, people know, no, this is a person imbibed with that repository of knowledge of corporate governance. So note down the keyword resolution items. It means these are things that you have to make follow-ups on. Because, and as part of the SIGA Act, if you're a public entity in particular, even if you're operating under the company's law or Act 2019, Act 992, you will be required to present reports. Part of your reports is your basic resolutions. If you fail to do that, they will come after you. Seriously. So write them down. Because, you see, nobody will tell you these are resolution items, but they will come after you, one after the other. Directors will come, particularly if you're a board secretary or CEO. Even the CEO is understandable. The board secretary, you have to feed your board chair, because as soon as you finish the meeting of the board for the day, then you must begin writing your minutes. And out of the minutes, you tease out the resolution items. And you single out the resolution items for action. And then you write a memo on that addressed to your board chairperson. And the board chairperson will now personify or personalize the resolution as reflecting what they requested of you. And then he, on behalf of the board of directors, will now write to the CEO, directing him. And resolution items are of two. There is one that requires directives, and therefore they are agents. And there is one that may not require, but they will just pass as follow-up items. So maybe next week, I will take you through the intricacies, the immutable dynamics of resolution items. The next most important is ensure that items are thoroughly discussed. So one after the other before you move. All of this cognizant of the time. So you allocate, you see, it requires advanced preparation. The secretary, the CEO, the board chair will sit down and then craft this an ideal environment. So that you know how much time you allocate to all of this, colleagues. Very important. We have already discussed this because it was skipped. So haven't done that, except that I just repeat the sweet spots and I say personalize or personify it from this our evenings. And I've given you one item of the sweet spot, which is your purpose or mission. Now look for the other two. It's not enough to identify all of this because I told you they are triangular in nature, creating the convergence zone where these things meet, because they will tell you your SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, as against your threats and the opportunities. And all of this, you'll be able to do a SWOT analysis just at a glance. Your sweet spots will give you that opportunity to do your SWOT analysis at a glance. Haven't done this, colleagues. All items are discussed. But remember that in the boardroom, it's not every item that can find its way onto the business order paper. So others are left out. So we call it your AOB, any other business. So you now table your AOB for discussions, colleagues. Yes. Honorable Joel, there will be question in the next 3 or 4 minutes. We will open it up for question answers and then other discussions. I've already alluded to that because it's a brief section. So you discussed your AOB. And like we said, they focus on items which did not make it to the order paper. Remember, as a good board chair, The camaraderie between you and the secretary is very important. Telepathy. So towards the tail end of the business discussion, remember, you are summarizing, you are concluding. So a good board chair would have alerted the secretary in advance that you will summarize the day's proceedings so that each and everybody leaves the boardroom with salient aspects of the whole discussion. A best eye view, and they know what directives were made, what were the follow-up items, and all this. So brief summary is important. What will you say as a board chair? This was just constructed for this purpose. You can be better. Before I bring the meeting to its logical, and may I call on the board secretary to, among others, one, highlight the key areas of our deliberations. Don't jitter as a board secretary because you would have been aware of this. Quick. This is automatic. You should notice. Rise up and tell them you are the chargé d'affaires. You are in charge. You point out the to-dos. That's resolution items. It means your to-dos are this. Then indicate follow-ups on the to-dos. It means that is what the board secretary, you want him. But please, don't catch him unaware in the boardroom. No. He should be aware in a particular if it becomes a customary practice. A customary practice. They will form part of the summary of the day's proceedings. You now tell board members, I thank all members for your cooperation and fruitful deliberations. It means that we are at the tail end of the meeting. Remember, you started by thanking them for the effort they put in to even put up appearance for the meeting. And on a thank you note again for their cooperation and fruitful discussions or deliberations, colleagues. Remember, I told you something, and please, let's learn from today. Let's speak as corporate governance disciples. Let us separate ourselves from those who have had not the benefits of parliamentary practice or boardroom meeting protocols. Even though you can say end of meeting on paper, but in verbal or practical terms, we don't end meetings because meetings are cyclical in nature. You adjourn meetings. Today is Sunday. We cannot end our meeting. We can only adjourn it to the next Sunday, colleagues. Is it not so beautiful? So you, the chair, will now say, shall we now move for the adjournment of this meeting? Because you are discussing the ends of the meeting on the agenda or the order paper. But in parliamentary, in practice, don't use the word end. You cannot end. It is just like telling somebody he has retired. No. When somebody you have invited to an occasion and you are reading his resume, maybe as a board chair or this, maybe he's no longer on retire. Say no, he retired. No, come on, who taught you corporate governance? No, man. Say he climaxed his career in 2022 because that is the zenith of his life. He didn't end or he retired. He only climaxed. So put these things down and stop using he retired. No, he climaxed, particularly for diplomatic purposes. You know, in diplomacy, we always want to use flowering language. The person is retired, having access to know, and you are now coming to repeat that. I mean, he retired, really? Who taught you euphemism? English language. Before even diplomatic, flowery language. You say he climaxed his career. So the same way we don't end meeting, we adjourn. So get somebody to move for the adjournment of the meeting. So a member will move for the adjournment of the meeting, and then another member will second, and the board secretary will have to record this. Based on this, I hereby declare the second board of directors meeting of this duly adjourned at 5:20 p.m. Sunday. Then the secretary will record it down. Having said this, you know, say thank you. God bless. My name is this, chairman of the board of directors. We are done, colleagues. So you can unmute and let's have one-on-one before our session ends in the next 5 minutes. Thank you so much. So let's just unmute. So Honorable Joel, you are on floor, please. Honorable Joel.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Honorable.
So please, the rest you can mute, that we can have decorum. Yes.
Right. Thank you, Honorable. A quick one. I wanted to find out. So when the board has settled, the meeting has been called to order, and the roll is called. What happens when there's no quorum? Hello? Hello? I can see you're speaking, but I can't hear you. I'm wondering if it's just me. Okay, good. I think. Oh dear, I can't hear anything.
Corporate governance and leadership lectures can be. No problem.